Hey YouTube, Bullish Investor here. A channel for new investors, by a new investor. My last video I had briefly mentioned a dividend aristocrat. So I thought today would be a good video to go over the differences between an aristocrat, a champion, and king, and why I think they're a good investment opportunity, and what the differences are between the three. So let's get started. Before we discuss aristocrat, champion, and kings, I'll briefly touch on what the heck a dividend is. Okay, let's go ahead and pull it up. Definition of a dividend right here. Let's go to Dividend.com. Just normally paid to shareholders each quarter or 4 times a year. However, some companies pay dividends annually, semi-annually, or even monthly. Each company sets its own payout schedule and determines the dividend dates on which the dividends will be made. So in a nutshell, basically you're getting a share of the company's profit on top of the stock price. Okay guys, now that we've covered the basics of a dividend, we could move on to dividend aristocrat, dividend champion, and dividend kings. We'll go ahead and do that on my laptop. And if you want a future video on what a dividend is in more detail, let me know in the comments below. Now that we've gone over the basic principle of a dividend, let's figure out the difference between an aristocrat, a king, and a champion. So let's go to a certain website I use. It's called dripinvesting.org, where it says here, a dividend champion are companies that have increased their dividend every year for at least the past 25 years. There are contenders. They have increased their dividends for at least the past 10 years, and challengers the past 5. Pretty cool. These dividend champions, they've increased their dividends every year for the past 25 years. In my book, that's a pretty cool deal. That's why we're looking at these today. So let's move on from dividend champions. Let's go look at aristocrats and see what the difference is here. So we've got dividendvaluebuilder.com. I bookmarked it because it's a good resource for me to look back on. And this says here 25 or more years of dividend increases. Okay, so dividend aristocrats and dividend champions are the same. Now let's go ahead and dividend kings. I like how Warren Buffett his picture pops up first there. How do you do that? Let's go ahead and the same website, only dividends gives you the kings list. And it says here 50 consecutive years. There are S&P 500 companies who have increased their dividend for 50 consecutive years, 50 plus consecutive years. Yeah, it's an amazing record of consistency, of course. Now let's look at the list here, because you know there's got to be some big names here. There you go. Procter & Gamble, 3M, Johnson & Johnson, Coke, Lowe's, Hormel, Tootsie Roll. I mean, the list it's pretty it's an exclusive list here. But that doesn't mean that they can't fail. Again, as with any investment, it's never 100%, but you can always hedge those odds by going with a company with a proven track record. Look at this. American States Water, 65 years. So 65 years tops the list. American States Water. That's pretty unbelievable. I actually own that stock. But let's go ahead and move over here. Back to the aristocrats. The list is a little bigger. It gives you a few more choices when looking at options for stocks. You got Chevron, AT&T, Aflac, Sherwin-Williams. It's still an exclusive list. Here are the companies that are pretty close to becoming kings here. We've got Leggett & Platt, Grainger, Kimberly-Clark, Pepsi, AbbVie, there's some more big names on here if you don't want to limit yourself just to the Dividend Kings. Okay, so now that we've looked at the Aristocrats list and the Kings list, and we looked at the Champions list, let's go back to my drip investing website here, and let's see what we got here. This is another tool that I use. We're not going to go over it extensively today, but we can go ahead and check it out. It's got an individual analysis for every champion, which we learned they've increased their dividend every year for the last 25 years. And you can see here, for example, let's look at Aflac here. Sector, financials, insurance, they've increased their dividend for 37 years. Current stock price here, $52.90. The yield at 2% gives you 27 cents times 4 for an average payout of $1.08 a year. So you can make things, you can simplify your process with this website. It's pretty awesome. I really enjoy it. And then you can even look at a couple other ratios down here. The dividend growth, the 510 AD. How much momentum does it have? We can go over that in another video in detail. Okay, let me clarify. I had mentioned a price Aflac had of $52.90, but that's only as current as of 12/31/19. It's not a rolling price, or a current price. It's a snapshot of what the price was at that moment. It is a good estimate, $52.90. I'm sure it's within a couple of dollars at this price here, but you get the idea. This is an amazing tool in the investor's arsenal. I highly recommend you use dripinvesting.org.
Okay guys, we now know the difference between the three. An aristocrat and champion are the same, with increasing dividends over the past 25 years or more. And the dividend king, unbelievably, has been doing it for 50 years or more. That's just absolutely amazing. There is no such thing as a sure thing in the stock market, but companies with sound financials such as Dividend Kings and Aristocrats are a pretty safe bet. With increasing dividends for over a half a century, I'd say it's a good deal.
That being said, a Dividend King and Champion is just that. They've been increasing their dividend for the last 25 and 50 years. Keep in mind, chasing a yield is not always the best idea, even if it's a king or a champion.
Okay guys, that's it from me. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I feel like I might be getting a little better at this whole narrating thing. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks.